So, my passion for diversity comes from the fact that I am diverse. I mean, to state the obvious, I tend to stand out in a room and I see one other young man here with a beard and a turban. But beards and turbans will do that to you. You stand out in a room. My part-time hobby is being randomly searched by the TSA at airports. It's true, and I run a global company. So that's not exactly common for someone who looks like me. And I can tell you there have been 100 times when I felt different from everybody else in the room, and you realize very early in your career that if I were not comfortable with myself, then I couldn't succeed. So it's completely critical to know that you should figure out who you are and be comfortable with it. What's important is what you do and how you do it, not where you came from or what you look like. And that's just going to be very important for your future. So let me put this for you in a different way. In nature, you get penalized if you're not diverse enough. Being a panda and having bamboo as your only food source quite dramatically increases your chance of becoming extinct. You get penalized in the business world too. IBM nearly went under in the early 1990s because it missed the entire PC revolution. Kodak missed the digital revolution. Diversity is what drives better insights, better decisions, better products. It is the backbone of innovation. It's what defines a great leadership culture. And there are 4 attributes of that stand out for me. And the first is a sense of urgency. Our world today, with its amazing technological advances and the fact that this innovation cycle is ever shortening, this world has no space for those who procrastinate. It's that urgency that makes me say to colleagues of mine in the company that if you have good news for me, take the stairs. But if you have bad news, take the elevator. I need to know that quickly so I can do something about it. The second is a sense of balance. A lot of people think that urgency and patience are contradictory, and they could not be more wrong. You need to be patient enough to listen to everybody, but yes, you must have a sense of urgency to take a decision and to execute. And the third is to be courageous enough to take what I call thoughtful risks. Rarely are you going to have perfect information in the careers that you're all going to go to. The willingness to take a decision at any time, at that time, will depend greatly on your ability to take a thoughtful risk, which ultimately depends on your courage. And as Winston Churchill said, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that really counts. And the fourth is to be competitively paranoid. And by that, I don't mean be fearful, but I mean constantly ask yourself if you're missing something. Is there more to the problem? Is there a better solution? If you don't question everything, if you're not competitively paranoid, you will not have the sense of self-introspection that you so sorely will need to be a real leader. So, a sense of urgency, a sense of balance, deep courage, and competitive paranoia, all of these are tremendously facilitated if you surround yourself with people who don't look like you, don't walk like you, don't talk like you, do not have the same experiences as you. And why is that so important? Because a group of similar people tends to think in similar ways, reach similar conclusions, and have similar blind spots. You need to be able to harness the collective uniqueness of all your people to widen your field of vision, to see things differently, to fail harder, to innovate, and to question everything. So as Stern graduates, you're all fully equipped to do that in a way that helps to drive diversity, but also helps to make business a force for good in the world.
Just to be clear, I'm the first guy who looks like me to do my job.
And picking up that he for she theme that's so eloquently been articulated by people like Emma Watson, it's great to have a man on the panel surrounded by all these powerful women talking about female inclusion. So welcome, Ajay. Now, in some ways, it's quite interesting to have you both on the panel talking about this issue, because if you dial back a decade or two ago, the World Bank has always been on the side of the angels, if you like, when it comes to trying to defeat poverty, or at least that's part of its mission. But Mastercard and the financial sector haven't always been on the side of the angels. Let's be honest about this. I mean, think about the recent financial crisis, think of the collapse of confidence in many financial service companies. You know, I think many people in the audience will be sitting here thinking, well, what on earth can a credit card company, which is in this to make money, to make profit, actually do to actually help women help combat poverty? So, Ajay, you have 30 seconds to convince us that you can be a force for good.
So first of all, we're not a credit card company. We're a technology firm, and we use technology and data. The banks issue the cards, we don't.
Okay,
So that's
right.
the first thing.
So why are you here? What
why
are you
am I
doing
here?
with the World Bank
So
to try and talk?
my belief is that if you think about the world's full of networks. What makes you succeed is your network. It could be a job network, an educational network, a financial network. When you don't have access to financial services, 2 billion people around the world don't. And by the way, the majority of them don't even have an identity. And an identity is kind of fundamental for you to be counted, for you to mean something, for you to be able to vote in most countries, and a few states in the United States after a few, 6-8 months back. So the issue really is, if you don't have a network, you're left out. We're trying to get them into the digital network. Majority of these 2 billion people who are unbanked are women. That kind of has all kinds of implications for poverty and economic sort of independence. And that means social independence. So that's kind of one set of segments. The other part is there's this refugee crisis around the world where there's 100 million people living in refugee camps. They live there for 15 to 17 years. If they don't have an identity and if they don't have access to basic needs, not just food and water, but they're going to be there 15, 17 years. They need jobs, they need commerce, they need stuff. That doesn't happen if you're excluded.
So how are you trying to work with groups like the World Bank to deal with these issues?
The biggest issue is that if you, first of all, as a private sector company, you've got to make this part of your business model. And the reason I believe that is I believe there's not enough money in philanthropy and the government sector to solve this problem. Business has to step up and make this part of its business model so it makes sense to you and your investors. And that's what we're trying to do. We have technology, we have the capability, we really care. I know that our employees care. It matters to them.
Well, Mastercard's turning 50 this year, and where the technology, I mean, it's such an important factor.
I'm older than that.
Tech is such a huge factor at Mastercard. The figures in STEM for women are very, very poor. How do you recruit those women, and how are they going to change Mastercard over the next 50 years?
So 60% of the women in our company work in a technology or technology-related job. So first of all, one of the things that bugs me enormously is this thing that women don't work in technology. It's bullshit, right? It's just nonsense. And it's not, it's a myth.
Love the candor of this guy. It's like, at least you know where you stand, right?
It's a myth that needs to be killed, right? Now, there is a problem that we find even in our own recruiting. You send recruiting teams of women and men to co-educational schools of engineering, which is a large focus for us of recruiting people who are engineers. And they come back with a lot of men. So it's a trick. You just send them to girls' schools of engineering. They can't come back with men. And it kind of works pretty well. And so we started doing this very systematic. It actually sounds funny, but it's actually very simple. So we started doing it now as a matter of recruitment. We send our recruitment teams not only to co-educational schools of engineering, but also to women's-only schools of engineering. And it changes the mix of people that you bring in. I think there's a deeper issue, which is, are there enough women going into STEM education and careers? And, my approach has been in our company that let me solve for my company to get the right role models into the place and get the right women into it. I don't know that all of us can boil the ocean to solve for the bigger issue, which to me is a real issue, of why enough women don't feel that going into STEM education and STEM careers is absolutely the right thing for them.
our company is an example where it is the right thing. As I said, 60% of women in our company are in technology and technology-related jobs. You're more than welcome to come join us.
I mean, let's talk about some of the issues that women here in the US and elsewhere are also running up against. And, you know, we hear endlessly about work-life balance. We hear endlessly about attrition. Women in the, quote, pipeline, they get to a certain level, they then fall off a cliff and disappear, and those numbers at the top, you know, really reduce. It's been a steady decline. How do you try to solve that at Mastercard? How are you keeping women engaged in the pipeline, getting to the top, and not dropping out in, you know, because they feel that work-life balance is impossible?
So it's the single hardest thing to do in transforming a company to really respect diversity. I mean, you know, first of all, because we're in the technology business and the infrastructure business, there is a deep realization in our company that without innovation, we're dead. Because the cycle of innovation in our kind of business is getting faster and faster and quicker and more rapid, and more people are trying to find ways to disintermediate existing models of business. So you've got to be nimble on your feet as well. And I learned a lesson long ago, which is that if you surround yourself with people who look like you and walk like you and talk like you and had the same backgrounds and education as you, then very soon you will end up missing the same things that are happening around you because you're going to have the same blind spots.
Yeah.
So surrounding yourself with people who are different from you is the best thing you can do for yourself, both as a manager, as a CEO, but even as anybody who is in any form of business or any form of enterprise. And so for me, having women who can surround our team and give them their perspectives and feed into how they think is critical. Now, I start with some benefit. We've got my CFO is a woman. The person who runs 60% of my revenue is a lady whom I hired about a year into the company. The lady in technology who connects, you know it's a lady now. The person in technology who connects all our customers with our capable systems is a woman. The person in technology who connects all our products and platforms with our technology is a woman. So we've had some of this going on, but you've got to keep working on it. And so what I'm trying to do is 3 or 4 things. One is we have a lab, a R&D lab, and we put products through that into incubation. As it so happens, 3 products are in incubation. All 3 are being run by women. If you think about how to develop them, you've got to give them mentors. You've got to give them the ability to succeed. You've got to pay them fairly. And I can tell you that in our company, we've done this appraisal year after year. It's hard work, but I can tell you, every woman gets paid exactly what a man gets paid for the work they do. Every single woman. Everyone. And it's not enough that my CFO is the second highest paid person in the company. That's not the point. The point is not one person. The point is every single woman gets paid exactly what a man would get paid for the same work. Mm-hmm. And if somebody gets in my way on that, they will be working in one of my competitors very quickly. It's a very simple system.